Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges, and today joining me is two-time involuntary transferee, Ben Gingher. Ben, how's it going?
Pretty good. Yeah, I'm just at home now in Pennsylvania, but not too bad.
You've had an unfortunate string of events. You originally swam for Eastern Michigan 1 year, and then their men's program was cut, and you transferred to East Carolina there for you swam there for 2 years, and then their program was recently cut. You recently committed to Youngstown State in Ohio, which honestly, I'm just fascinated that you've between your high school and college, you've lived in 4 different states. Is that right?
Yeah. Originally from Pennsylvania. Then went to school in Michigan for a year, and then 2 years in North Carolina, and now I'll be going to Ohio. So yeah, 3 different out-of-state schools, but yeah, I've kind of just been all over.
Yeah. So I'm excited to get into all this and get your perspective, because obviously you're in a unique position. So let's back it up. Start at the beginning. How'd you get into swimming?
So I'm the youngest of 6 in my family. So I have 4 older sisters and an older brother. All 4 of my sisters swam throughout high school, and 3 went on to swim in college. One of my sisters did swim at Eastern Michigan as well. So that's kind of how I, heard of the school and stuff. But I never really was into swimming myself. I didn't start swimming until my sophomore year of high school. So I'd always kind of been around the sport because of them, was at meets all the time watching them and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't really for me for a while. And then I actually did gymnastics for like 8 years. And then my freshman year of high school, I was on the diving team. And then beginning of sophomore year, I decided to start swimming. I would always do like summer league swimming in the summers just for fun. It wasn't serious, and always practice all the time. But it was just something I did for fun, and like my family always did it. So I kind of just decided to take it a little bit more seriously and kind of follow in their footsteps. And I think switching to swimming was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I'm really happy to be doing it, especially at the collegiate level. So yeah, I wasn't ready to give it up just yet.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we just recently had a podcast with Missy Franklin and her husband, and we talked about the joy of swimming, mostly how that is grown during summer league, right? What made you decide to go over to swimming that sophomore year? Did it have anything to do with that summer league experience?
I would say so, yeah. Like I said, growing up, I always kind of did it, and my older siblings did as well. And then they went on to coach the summer league whenever they were older and in college and whatnot. And I always loved like watching them swim, and just being on summer league was always, it's like a community thing. It's super fun. And it's really competitive, which I love. And then, yeah, I was always able to like keep up with the year-round swimmers that did it in the summer league as well. So I think with that, I was like, maybe this is something I could get a lot better at if I trained year-round for it. So I thought it was time to make the switch. I thought it was in the blood, and it's kind of worked out since then. But yeah, I'd say summer league was a huge part of, that decision to switch.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a few personal questions. How old is your oldest sibling? What's the age gap here?
So she's currently 32, and
Okay.
I'll be 22 in October. So we're 10 years apart.
Okay. Gotcha. So you guys are pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a full house.
Yeah. Yeah. And it always has been. So yeah, kind of just watching them, grow up and go off to college and just keep swimming is always something that I wanted to do. And, for a while I didn't think it was going to be in swimming, but, I'm happy it is now.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite sibling? It's okay to be honest.
I do get that question a lot. Kind of hard to answer though. I would say like my relationships with each of them kind of fluctuate just depending on, I guess where each of them are living at the time. Because, people come and go, and I don't know. I'd say it kind of changes throughout the years, but I don't know if I could pick a favorite,
That's
especially
a
if you watch this. I can't.
that's a
Not follow.
very that's a very civil answer, and I totally buy it. I think if you, I have one sibling. I have two siblings. One is a half sibling, but I have one sibling who I grew up with and I'm really close to, and the other one is my half sibling. He's much older than us, and so he was we just naturally weren't as close with him because he lived somewhere else for most of our childhood, and
Oh,
we just didn't grow up with him. Um, but it sounds like if you guys are only 10 years apart from top to bottom, um, that
mhm.
sounds like you have. It seems like you would have a good relationship with all of them, and are you close to any of them now? Are they all in Pennsylvania? Did they totally spread out? Were they like, get me away from
Yeah.
this madhouse?
The oldest two, well, actually, I mean, everyone's always, just kind of moved out and kind of gone on their own, especially after college. So they have been spread out. My sisters in the past were in Tennessee and Nashville area. And then, I had a sister out in Wisconsin for a little bit, but three of the sisters are back in Pennsylvania. Like one lives just down the road from me. Well, two of them actually. One's in the same neighborhood. So yeah, the oldest two are back, and the youngest sister's also in town. So proximity wise, they are close. My brother is in Silver Spring, Maryland, so he's not too far. And then one of my other sisters is in the Philly area. But yeah, I mean, they've been all over the place, but they've kind of congregated a little bit closer now. In general, we're all in a much closer proximity. So yeah, they're back.
that, that that seems really cool. Um,
It is nice for sure.
I mean, you automatically have five role models to look up to, which I'm also the youngest sibling, and it always seemed easy to follow in someone's footsteps.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so all right, so let's get back to you. Sorry. Uh,
No problem.
so you start swimming sophomore. I have one more question about your past. You did gymnastics for 8 years.
Mm.
Can I ask how tall you are?
Um, 5'11", might be,
Okay.
but yeah.
Did I? I know that from the outside, I know in gymnastics, usually the athletes, the more elite athletes are on the shorter side. Did you grow out of gymnastics, or did you kind of fade away interest wise?
I'd say it's a little bit of both, but the height thing definitely played a role. I did, start growing a lot more in high school. Um, and yeah, it was just something I didn't see as long term anymore. Um, but I mean, when I was younger, that's like all I wanted to do and thought that I was gonna, take that through college. But yeah, height definitely played a role. I was getting bigger, and yeah, like you said, most gymnasts are on the shorter side. Um, so yeah, I think my body, did play a role, and it was definitely more suited towards swimming. But yeah, and then for a while I thought it was just going to be diving, because that gymnastics kind of played well into diving. That they kind of went hand in hand in that sense. Um, but just being around swimming within the diving, I think also helped me, make that jump, because I wanted the more competitive side of it. I thought the racing was really exciting, and so yeah, all of those factors helped me, make that decision to become a swimmer.
So you start swimming seriously sophomore year. When when did it become a goal for you, or a thing in your vision to swim in college?
Um, I would say probably the end of that sophomore year. The beginning, obviously, I was a lot slower, and it was a tough sport to get into, especially surrounded by people that have been doing it for years. So, like, in that sense, it was pretty intimidating. I think it was like September of that year. So I think that was 2014. And then I went to a meet in November. Um, and, it was okay. It was like my first real meet. But then at the end of that year, I had sort of my first shave and taper meet. And I dropped like a bunch of time from the beginning of the year, which, was almost expected at that point. But I think then it started to really become almost a reality that I think I went into swimming knowing that I did want to swim in college, but, didn't know how sort of plausible that was going to be with, I didn't have that much time left in high school. But yeah, I'd say at the end of sophomore year, it started to become a reality, and I could see myself doing a lot bigger things.
Yeah,
For
we're
sure.
Were you always a breaststroker?
I think so. Yeah. At that first meet that I mentioned, I swam the 100 breast. I went like 108. But at the time, my coach was like, "It's not bad, like for where you're at." And he's like, "We can definitely get that down." And I think he sort of just saw, from coaching me in practice and whatever, just kind of noticed how my breaststroke was better than the other strokes. Going into it, I just kind of, for some reason, assumed I'd be a sprinter. I don't know why. But yeah, breaststroke kind of just worked the best. And, as we trained it throughout the years, it just got better. So, yeah, I think I've always really been a breaststroker.
Do you like breaststroke, or was that something you just kind of fell into?
At first, it was something I just fell into, but I do really like it, especially the 200. I actually like the two breast, and it wasn't really something I started training hard for until college. So my freshman year, I did a lot of training that was like a lot longer, and two breast sort of became my better event. I was in high school. I just sort of classified myself as a 100 breaststroker because I never, it's not a high school event, so I didn't really ever swim it often. And yeah, when I got to college, trained it a lot more, and it became my better event, and I actually like enjoyed swimming it. So
Nice.
yeah.
That it certainly not a typical answer, but
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. I think that's certainly one advantage of coming into the sport later is that is that you don't necessarily have an idea of what to expect in certain events.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't ever really, I was like terrified of the 200 breast at first. But then again, as I started training for it more and racing it more, it became a better event. I actually, once I learned how to swim it, then that's whenever I really started to like it.
Yeah. So all right, so you're a breaststroker. You see vast improvements your sophomore year. Take us through how you ended up at Eastern Michigan. I know you mentioned one of your sisters swam there, um, but yeah, what made that the school to be at for you?
Yeah. So, like you just said, my older sister swam there. She graduated in 2012. So I graduated high school in 2017. So, she was done with college before I was done with high school. But I never, it wasn't somewhere I actually saw myself going at first. Like I said, three of my sisters swam in college, and then the other two went to their own colleges as well. So I really wanted to have my own place, my own school. But I got in contact with the coach, Peter Lynn, there at the time. Fantastic guy, fantastic coach. And I scheduled the recruiting trip, and once I was there, I just like fell in love with the team. Just felt really like, just from the trip, like I felt like I was already on the team, and everyone there was just amazing, and I had the best time. And a lot of people from my trip ended up committing there as well. So I kind of made those friends on the trip, and then going into freshman year, it was really nice to kind of already know them a little bit. So yeah, I'd say just from the recruiting trip that I took there, I kind of just knew that that was the place I wanted to go. Um, I had some reservations because again, I didn't want to go to the same school as my sister, but kind of had to just let that go. And and it was a great year, so I don't regret it at all.
Yeah. So from the outside looking in, Peter Lynn is kind of an unsung legend in the swimming community. From my perspective, that you talk to any seasoned coach on deck, and they'll say Peter Lynn was making chicken salad at Eastern Michigan for years. He would get these I guess diamonds in the rough, or just these raw swimmers, much like yourself, who hadn't been in it for too long, or I don't know, maybe just needed the right kind of attention. And you'd
Yeah.
see their results a few years later. And especially in breaststrokers, I think, Delaney Duncan comes to mind in
Right.
recent memories. He was really doing something right. So for you with that one year at Eastern Michigan, what was the special sauce for you?
I think just the training in general. It was a lot more than I was used to. But the training I had in high school was great. My high school coach Ryan Sprang was great for where I was at the time, and I got a lot better throughout high school. But yeah, like you said, I think Coach Peter Lynn kind of took a chance on me, because when I had committed there, I personally, wouldn't say I was fast enough to go there by any means. So I dropped a lot of time while I was there, and I would say his training, it was tough. It was a big adjustment at first. He did a lot more yards than I was used to. But I got to train that longer breaststroke rather than just sprint, and I think it really helped just overall. And we do breaststroke a lot, but he hit all the points, and we did a lot of long stuff, a lot of distance, a lot of breath control, just you name it, we did it. So yeah, I would just say the training was a big adjustment, but in the end it worked out.
Yeah. For you personally, I I do some coaching at a club level, and I think breaststroke is one of my favorite things to coach because there's so many ways to coach it.
Yeah.
Uh, do you have a favorite part of training, maybe that you did at Eastern Michigan? A favorite thing that you would do specifically for breaststroke, or maybe just in general that you really liked?
I don't know. That's tough. I wouldn't say I liked it because it was all like really hard. Um, but yeah, one thing that specifically, sticks out in my mind from freshman year, we had to coach. I think it was a new thing that year, or maybe he just brought it back from past years. But we had the pool tubes, the little black rubber tube I used for pulling. Put those around our ankles and do a breaststroke pull. And we would do like 50s, 100s, even long course of that. And it got me every time because I'd say my kick is a lot better than my pull. So that was definitely really tough. And there's like people that weren't breaststrokers on the team that would be beating me and some of the other breaststrokers on it because it was tough. But yeah, that's one thing that really sticks out about his, breaststroke training.
I mean, I think you put a tube on and it's a completely different stroke at that point. It's
Yeah.
basically underwater butterfly.
Yeah, we always get yelled at for doing the butterfly kicks. But when I'm not moving doing the pull, like I had to do something to get to the other side.
Absolutely, yeah. Uh, all right, um, so when Eastern Michigan did get cut, when you got the news, can you talk us about that experience, your initial reaction, and how you were able to move through that and handle that situation?
Yeah. So it was, we just come off conference. We had our little 2 weeks off, and we had just had our first practice back of like postseason. So it was a Monday. We just had our first practice. And I was back in the dorms with my roommates. We had like a little apartment style room. And so there's like 3 double rooms and a single. We're all just hanging out in there. And one of my roommates like is looking at his phone, and we got an email from our coach. But it was kind of an unusual email, not one that he would normally send. And he was telling us he just got word there's a mandatory athlete meeting the next morning at, I think it was 7:30 in the football meeting room. So we all just, thought this was weird. And my roommate's like, did you guys get this too? Like, he didn't know if he was being singled out, like something was wrong. And we're all like, yeah, like, I don't know what this is about at all. And so, after a while, we're kind of just like coming up with, anything that it could be because we had no idea because it was just really out of the ordinary and just not, something normal that he would have sent us. And it was very vague, So my roommates and I are kind of freaking out, and we're like asking around, and we found out the girls team didn't get the email. So we're like, this is strange. And, coming up with solutions. We thought maybe it was like a team-wide drug test or something. And then we're just asking around, and we find out softball had gotten it, wrestling, and tennis. So, throughout I think it was already around like 8 p.m. that night. So it was getting a little bit later, and we're all just, starting to get together and like sort of figuring out what this could be because, we had no idea. And everyone's trying to like avoid the elephant in the room that it could be a cut because we're like, there's just no way they could do it. But so yeah, that whole night, people are just getting together. We're all just kind of hanging out and kind of putting the pieces together and, thinking it's a little bit fishy. And some of the girls were talking to our assistant coach, Tracy, at the time. And, she said she had no idea, but she was really upset too. And just everyone, just saying they had no idea. Like, we're all just kind of waiting to see. And I would say a majority of us didn't ever really sleep that night. I know some of my roommates didn't. So we get up and, go the next morning, and all the other teams are in there, and we're all just kind of looking around like, what's this about to be? And then, our AD, Scott Weatherby, comes out, and like by 7:31, like we all just knew. And my one roommate is sitting in the row behind me and just like started crying immediately. And everyone is just like in shock. Like he's like, we're sorry, we have to do this, but essentially you're just cut. And the meeting, I don't think lasted more than like 5 minutes. It was, I don't know what more they could have said, but it was heartbreaking to say the least. And then our coaches come in, they're upset, crying, and I still I think I'm in shock at this point. And then we all go in for one last breakdown, a little Eagles on 3. And I think everyone at that point just it all really hit them then. So it was emotional for sure. And that's just like the cut part. So navigating through after that was definitely tough too. But yeah, that's how they did it the first time.
So, at least in that situation, what does the aftermath of that look like in terms of, were you told, oh, well, were you encouraged to stay at the school? Were you encouraged to find other options? Was practice, could you not have practices like the next day, or were you allowed to keep swimming through the summer? What did I guess the immediate few months after that look like?
Yeah, so since it was only March, then we had a month or two left of school. They were letting us continue to practice and use the pool. And directly after the meeting, whenever we got back, like we already had the emails. There was an attachment, the permission to contact form, so we could start talking to other schools right away, because I don't think the transfer portal was a thing then. So yeah, we had gotten that right away, so we could begin to get recruited or start talking to other coaches. But yeah, we were allowed to use the pool. They would still be honoring scholarships for those that choose to stay. And yeah, that's kind of, I think, all we were given at the time.
Yeah. And so then what was your path moving forward?
Yeah, so I think that same day I started emailing coaches. I talked to my high school coach at the time, because I don't think anyone really knew what to do. It was just kind of, I don't know. It all was just kind of shocking at first, obviously. But yeah, I started talking to coaches, and we were allowed to have 5 more recruiting trips. So they waived that for us. So yeah, EC was one of those. They were one of the first schools I started talking to. But yeah, my roommates and I, we were all kind of talking to different and similar places, and planning trips. But it was stressful because finals were coming up. It was the end of the year. We had to figure out moving out of the dorms as well, if we were going to stay. And at that time I had already signed a lease for that next year, so I had to figure that out as well. So it was definitely a stressful few months, and I didn't make a decision on where I was going until May. So I'd already moved out of school and I was back home, and I had no idea where I was going to be in the fall. But yeah, I think it was towards the end of May that I had committed to ECU and finally
Gotcha.
figured it out.
Okay. And so you're able to swim at Eastern Michigan while you're there. I'm guessing you swam at home that summer. And then you head to East Carolina and you're there for 2 years. Why did you finally decide on East Carolina?
So it was one of the recruiting trips that I took. I went there with one of my roommates at the time. And I had a friend from home, Liz Brown, who swam at East Carolina as well. But she graduated before I went on my trip there. So, I had a mutual connection there. I liked the school a lot. The coaches were great. They made me a good offer. So at the time it was, the best decision for me. And from an academic standpoint, my credits all transferred over, so I wasn't behind at all. And so just from a swimming and academic point, it was definitely the best decision.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question about credits transferring over, because I can't imagine that. Well, yeah, that it's good to hear that was streamlined that first go about. So East Carolina, you're there for 2 years. Tell me about your experience there. Do you continue to grow as a swimmer, as a breaststroker, as a student? What did you gain from your experience there?
Well, I'd say, you know, the transition wasn't easy by any means. You know, me and my other teammates from Eastern Michigan, I think we all kind of had similar experiences in that sense. Not everyone, but because we're not like normal transfers. We didn't really necessarily choose to leave. Because I was ready for my next 3 years at EMU. I loved the team and the school, but yeah, I'd say the transition from one team to another was really hard. I kind of didn't give it a chance at first. I was a little more closed off and not really myself at the beginning of the year. Because I was pretty unhappy. To be honest, I was unhappy there. I missed my team, I missed my friends, and it was a rough transition. But once I started to give it a chance and open myself up to it, and just kind of accept that this is where I am and this is where I'm gonna be the next 3 years. Then it started to change. I got a lot closer with the team. I'd say the training was a lot different than what I was used to. But ECU's had really successful breaststrokers in the past, so I tried to trust it as much as I could. But I also think just that tough transition played a role in how my sophomore year went swimming wise. Because I wasn't really near the times I was my freshman year. But again, I'm kind of going to blame that on that tough transition and just how long it sort of took me to get into the swing of things there. But when I went back for junior year, I was a lot more optimistic. I had really close friends. I was excited for the new year. And I did do a lot better than I had as a sophomore. Didn't quite reach all of my goals, but I thought I still had another year there to kind of take care of that business. But junior year was definitely a lot better. And, I loved the school. I got really close with the team. The coaches were great. But yeah, it's kind of sad it has to end like this. But, I'm not ready to give it up just yet.
So, you brought up a lot of good points there. It is, I think people often, make big transitions in their lives like that and don't give themselves the space to kind of, just settle in before expecting bigger and better things out of themselves. Yeah, I mean, when you have to leave somewhere that you called home and that you really enjoyed, and go somewhere new and foreign against your will, I don't see how you couldn't have kind of a lull and a down period before you get used to it. Um, so, but you said junior year was better,
Yeah.
and that's really great to hear. What was different about the training at East Carolina than Eastern Michigan?
So there was sort of, I guess, like two or three distinct like training groups at East Carolina. So the sprinters, it's like 100 free, 200 free, 50 free, and some flyers, some 100 backstrokers. So basically just sprint and breaststroke were together. And then, like the other stroke and distance were together as well. And we trained at different times because, we didn't have the pool space to all be there at once. So yeah, I was with sprinters, and that's where breaststrokers had really always been, unless you're more of a 4 a.m.er, then you'd be in the distance group. So, and my coach there, Kevin, was a great coach. He's always had really successful swimmers and sprinters and breaststrokers. So, I try my best to trust him. But there I was trained more as a sprinter, and it helped my 100 a lot. I got down to 54 this year, and which is faster than I was at EMU. So I definitely think it helped my 100 a lot. And junior year, the training was different than sophomore year. It was a lot like breaststroke was a little bit more separate. We did a little more aerobic than we had, and we trained a little bit more IM than we had. So, yeah, the training was ramped up a little bit, which I think helped for sure. But yeah, that's sort of the main differences, I would say.
Yeah. Going back to a little bit, I was going to ask this and got ahead of myself. We talked about, obviously you didn't want to leave Eastern Michigan, and you had a family there, you had a whole team there. Did you ever consider just staying and not swimming?
At Eastern Michigan, no. I was set on leaving. Because swimming wise, I had a successful freshman year, so I wasn't ready to just give that up yet. And especially since I did start kind of later than most people in high school, at that point I'd only been swimming about 4 years. So again, wanted to continue with that. And I'd say that's what was different about this time is I did consider staying a lot more. Um, so that was, the tougher decision I had to make this time, especially with just 1 year left. So at Eastern Michigan, didn't really consider it. All of the freshman class essentially transferred. So it's definitely something that I wanted to continue doing. And, this time around, I'm really glad I made the decision to keep swimming too.
Yeah. I mean, so obviously you're put in this position again. We did a lot of reporting on East Carolina getting cut, trying to bring the team back. I don't believe that's been successful as of yet. You mentioned that you thought about staying and just not swimming. What was the final factor in finding another school and continuing your swimming?
Yeah. So, well, lucky enough at Youngstown, I will be able to graduate within 2 semesters. So that was huge. I didn't really want to have to take extra time on my degree. Um, and, I just, having this happen a second time, I didn't want to let, the poor leadership in both universities kind of decide whenever I was done swimming. I wanted to really finish on my own terms. Like I said, haven't been the most satisfied the past 2 years with my performances. So I really want that last year to just kind of finish how I want and, on my own terms. And another big factor was, the pandemic going on. So I didn't really know if there's any guarantee of a season happening. And, if it does, it might not be normal by any means. So I kind of had a little breakdown and was like, is this really something I want to do? If the season doesn't happen and, then I'm at this new place again with, probably not any close friends just yet. And, so it's kind of like, I'd done this once. Do I really want to do it again? But at the end of the day, I definitely do. I definitely want to keep swimming. And I'd say, yeah, just being able to graduate on time was huge in that decision factor. And, if something does happen to the season, at least I went out trying.
Yeah. So do you think, I don't know if I have your short course best times up in front of me. I don't know about long course. I mean, do you think you would try to make a run for Olympic trials? I don't know if you have a trials cut or not yet, but do you think you would continue swimming after you're done with college?
Um, Potentially. I did swim the past 2 summers. I actually did go back to Michigan and I trained with Peter Lynn through Club Wolverine there. So, I had some friends over there from Eastern Michigan still. And, we had a little training group that we all worked with. And, 2 summers, past two, I've gone to sectionals in Cleveland and competed with all of them. Um, I don't know about next summer. I definitely wanted this summer to see if I could get close to a trials cut. But that didn't happen. But I think it would be something I would consider. I do like long course swimming. But yeah, not exactly sure yet.
Yeah. Well, and you've certainly got time, um,
Hmm.
to consider everything. Are you swimming now?
I'm just now getting back into it since things are kind of just opening up. It's more on my own just now because I will be moving into school soon, and I think my club team here has a wait list to get on or get in the pool since they're social distancing. So yeah, it's been more on my own just now. And, yeah, just kind of just now getting back into it.
Yeah. So, I guess to wrap things up, you're heading to Ohio,
Mhm.
as you said, pretty soon. You've got one more year of college swimming left. Do you have any closing thoughts? Any parting wisdoms moving forward? Maybe anything for any of the other various teams that have been cut due to this COVID pandemic, due to other reasons in the past few weeks.
Um, well, as cliche as it sounds, I would just say don't give up. Um, and if you truly want to keep swimming, you can. Um, I'd say, just personally, again, I'm really thankful to have the opportunity to swim my last year somewhere. I didn't know if that was going to be an option for me whenever this first happened. So, if it's something you really want to do, you can. And yeah, just again, don't give up on it. And just, you can always finish the way you want.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
awesome, Ben. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your experience with us. I really appreciate it.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And hopefully we'll be able to catch up soon and follow your career moving forward. Good luck with your last year.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, again, really appreciate it. My heart goes out to all of the cut student athletes that, have been cut recently. And, it's never too late, and just don't give up on it.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.